Hello, this video is for public speaking. It covers the subject of special occasion, ceremonial speeches. But before I get into that, there is the usual business of my tip for the coronavirus and the situation we're in. And as I already said this before, be careful about the protests and everything. Because the simple fact is we're still in the pandemic, so make sure you protect yourself by mask when you have a chance to wash your hands and clean off whatever might occur. Maybe take wipes, just clean off your face whenever you can and so forth. But also protect others. So if you have any family members that are older or at risk, you have to be aware you should not be visiting them for a while. What else is there? There's a thing I want to talk real quick before we get to, because this, by the way, this video is very hard to do. I wish I did this video earlier, considering what the subject matter is and what I'm going to try to do with it. But about this, the police killing and the protests and so forth, one of the things that you should remember is, and this is a problem I have, because when I worked in politics, or when I still do, when I work in education, I'm a policy analyst. I figure things out. And so when people don't do the best thing possible, when the most efficient, most effective things have been proven, it tends to be disingenuous. And their credibility is off and so forth. And with what we're seeing right now with the issues at hand, there's a lot of disingenuous people out there. So I say that too. I mentioned about the protest. Any of these civic leaders could have easily said, okay, reminded folks about the pandemic and said, hey, if you meet up, you're going to have the possibility of infection. And none of them did. None of them did that kind of concerned thing. And just by saying that out loud, or not saying it at all, it kind of reminds them that they really don't care about people's safety. Civic leaders could have had smaller events in all different parts of the city that kind of spread out the protests and make it a little bit more across a lot of areas and not have it as large. There could have been lots of things. I suggested in a video about designating space. Mayors designating space. Say, this is where we're going to give you as much space as humanly possible. And smaller towns, smaller cities around there have their own. And let that flow out organically. And when they don't do simple stuff like announce policy, we talk about them not arresting, but they're not even announcing, okay, this is what we're going to do to change it. It's disingenuous. So be mindful of that in each other. Before I go into what we're going to and kind of put a separation between it, real quick thank you to the students who watch these videos. These videos were a way for me to try to bridge the digital divide. By having YouTube videos, I was able to give some flexibility to the students so they can watch it and do the work on their own instead of having, what they say, synchronized. I don't like jargon. Having all those Zoom meetings and lectures and so forth. This gives a lot more flexibility. So thank you for participating, and for those who are doing journals, I'm going to get them, so don't worry about that. All right. Okay, enough of that. This is. So all of the videos have been about your. If this is you're a public speaking student, all the videos in the discussion threads have been about your speeches and developing your speeches. And this one's a little bit different because the last one, this one, is about you and the ability to give speeches and special occasions. At the beginning of the semester, when we were we were in the classroom, I said special events, special occasions, ceremonial speeches, are the ones that you are most likely to give in your lifetime. Funerals, eulogies on one hand, but also graduation, special events, weddings, retirement ceremonies, birthdays, things like that, celebrating people and so forth. And if you looked in your books and read the section you were supposed to read, there was a list of all the different ones. Now what we usually do in my class is, because one of the things that they talk about is toast, but they don't mention one of the most popular ones right now in special occasions, which are roast. And we usually roast people in our classes, in my classes for public speaking. We have rules, but unfortunately we can't do that because we're not all together. So, we develop over times in our groups, and that's how we roast, but we can't do that. So what we're going to do now, what I'm going to do is I wrote jokes, and your discussion thread is for you to write some jokes about the current situation. Now, obviously, the protest and the killings, there's no jokes, nothing. I thought about making a joke about, this curfew reminds me of a single man on Christmas Eve deciding to do his shopping. He has to do all his shopping before everything closes at 6 p.m. But you know what? It's not even funny, and it wouldn't even be appropriate. So that is an example of what you're not supposed to do. So in the jokes and so forth, I want you to focus on more appropriate humor, obviously inclusive language and so forth, anything that would be appropriate for where you're doing it in the classroom. So try to be fun with it, make your own jokes and so forth. Kind of like, because jokes at special occasion events, including funerals, is a great attention getter. So you're writing jokes for your discussion. So I have jokes I have for coronavirus and put in there. And because of that, I found a mic. Now this mic actually does not work, but when you're doing stand-up, you're supposed to have a mic. So here we go. And I might have to take off my glasses because I wrote these in my little joke book. I like it work. This does not work, but here we go. This I decided to do jokes about the coronavirus and what we're going through. I thought this was done, obviously, these things were written obviously before, and I thought make humor, a unique situation, and so forth. So I hopefully it's not inappropriate or whatever. All right. So we're going through a lot of stuff. By the way, there's no particular order. These are just random thoughts. All right. These are what we call observational humor. All right. So there is a lot of changes in our lives because of the pandemic and so forth. One thing is celebrities are doing their part to help keep people at home. And one of the things they're doing is they're posting everything they're doing in their daily life. So that's a great way to keep those stalkers at home. They're really looking out, keeping their stalkers at home. That's awesome. Of course, if they have the hardcore stalkers, even them are getting bored with staying at home all the time. They're just out there outside the window in the tree yelling, "Change the channel!" Right? That was not that funny. Gosh, all right. So yeah. I'm nearsighted, so yeah. One of the weird things for me at my age is people are posting updates on their grandparents, and I'm just like, well, you still have them? Oh my goodness! When I was in high school, how do you still have them? It's shocking to me. One of the things is, hey folks, we don't need a family trip to the store. You don't need to bring the kids to the store. We're all masked up and wanting not to touch anything. We don't need your kids to be ping-ponging down the aisles. And by the way, you don't need to prove your relationships by doing couple shopping. If you want to prove your relationship, trust one with the shopping list. All right, you don't need we don't need the whole team out. And it was really bad. Is that I once saw at a Costco, someone brought their grandparents. You know how sometimes you bring your grandparent and you let them roam the store to just have some free time? Not in this environment. The grandparent was walking through the clothes area at Costco. It was like somebody in one of those movies in a war zone. Right, that was not that good. Speaking of the problem with the racists that we're having, I think racists are enjoying the pandemic because they now have an excuse to cross the street when they see somebody they don't like. They're like, oh my gosh, I can be openly racist? This is so freeing. I haven't felt this openly racist since I voted for president last time. But speaking of that, speaking of presidents, I personally don't believe in cultural appropriation, but I've never felt more Puerto Rican in my entire life. Let's look up Puerto Rico's hurricane. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, thank you for the virus for adding yet another level of intimacy barriers when you're starting a relationship. It used to be, oh my gosh, can I feel safe? We have safe to be intimate. Now it's like, do I feel like you can breathe on me? It's just a little bit too much. A little bit too much. Good news. For me, I had found my toilet paper for life. That was weird. I was stuck getting like the biggest batch possible. I got lucky at Target, kind of never had before, and it's great and it's awesome, and I'm going to be buying it for the rest of my life. It's like finding, for us older folks, it's like finding, a really good date at a seedy bar, or an actual relationship on Tinder. And just a little knock on Tinder, which is, by the way, a paywall to doing it. I have a year's supply. It's not because I'm a hoarder, but I was stuck buying the biggest one because I didn't want to have to do the 3 shells. That's a reference for people in the 90s. I'm, by the way, going to the stores. I saw the pictures of all the different ways. I'm really right now jealous of the diving suit guy. You know, the guy who wears the old diving suits from World War I or II, and he does like the marathons in them and so forth. I want that. I want to be so encapsulated that people don't even know what is in the suit, except for what I buy in my groceries. Then they can be judgmental pricks. And by the way, great dating profile pic. I like the fact that Los Angelonians are staying strong during the pandemic, keeping up their ways and what they are, and even with the freeways completely being empty, still find a way to be horrible drivers. It's great. I was getting onto an empty freeway, one car, and the person, I'm going to say guy because it's always a guy. Guy could not get over. Going onto the freeway, had to stay in the right lane. Stopping for a second to appreciate the fireworks that people are shooting up in the air at 1:15 in the morning. I do this, by the way. I try to do these at night for 2 reasons. One, because I can control the sound a lot easier that way, and 2, if you watch the one I have with the video, I don't open my eyes fully in the mornings. Never. My eyes don't open in the mornings. By the way, I just want to say this. I do want my Costco back. We're living in a world where we're gonna lose some things, maybe forever. I can't lose free demos. This is the reason why I have Costco membership. I want free food. I want my free food back. So, let's find a way. Let's get this solved. I want my free food. Me personally, I was not a fan of getting the mask at first. But I'll tell you right now, I think it would have been a gangbusters if they came out with a functional Bane mask. Because the little hookups and everything would have been great, but it would just give everyone a chance to do their own version of the Bane voice. Oh yes. I will and keep a social distance. I was born isolated. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't do impressions. I really don't. Oh, by the way, I did follow. This is my last joke, so I can put my glasses back on. Woo. I did follow the president's advice for trying UV lights and put them everywhere in your body, and I tried that as much as humanly possible. Unfortunately, I do have to appear in court for indecent exposure. Anyways, enough of that. So that was my jokes. Discussion question, as stated at the beginning, and for your journal, write some jokes. Try at least two, and we're doing the makeup Zoom before your last speeches. So if you share in the makeup Zoom, you can actually get bonus points. All right, for that. And good night, folks. Tip your waiters and waitresses, which in this case is probably family. So say I love you or something to them. All right. Good night.